Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I am Katy Dammers, an artistic producer here at FringeArts, and you are in the Zoom room for American Chameleon, Meditation on Grief and Healing. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. And before we get started, I'm just going to go over a few brief announcements. You are joining us tonight as part of a co-presentation with the Fringe Festival based here in Philadelphia and the TBA Festival put on by the Portland Institute of Contemporary Art in Portland, Oregon. We are really thrilled to have partnered with PICA on this presentation, American Chameleon by Jaamil Olawale Kosoko, that has run contiguously throughout the month of September in both of our festivals. One great thing about doing a primarily digital festival this year is that it's allowed us to start new forms of partnership and to bring together not only artists and organizations, but also our audiences. So big hello to everyone who's joining us from Philadelphia, from Portland, and from many places in between. Today is actually the last day of the TBA Festival, but the Fringe Festival will continue through Sunday with some additional programming later on in October as well. So we hope that you'll continue to join us. Most of our programming is free this year, and that you'll tell your friends. As I mentioned before, given the digital context, geography is not quite the same barrier that it used to be. So we'd love for you to invite people, spread the word, and to consider supporting Fringe Arts. We're really happy to be able to provide this programming free of charge and would appreciate your support as we continue to do so. You can do that by donating to us or purchasing a membership or considering one as a gift. And Zach, who's my co-artistic producer at Fringe Arts, who also is joining us today and supporting us on the back end with lots of tech, we'll go ahead and put some links in the chat. Speaking of Zoom, I know so many of you are Zoom pros. We have been working in primarily digital, virtual, and distanced platforms for a while now. But just to orient you to this space and how we're going to use it today, we ask that you keep your microphone off so that you are muted. We also ask that your video is off. This will allow us to focus primarily on our panelists who will be speaking today. That being said, we do want to invite your participation both throughout the presentation and in a Q&A function at the end. You are welcome to use the chat, which you can see at the bottom of your toolbar. You can put pretty much anything respectful that you'd like in there. Much of Jaamil's practice, as he and others will speak about today, is a collaborative archiving in real time. So you're welcome as people discuss things to put in your thoughts, to add links to other things, and to put your questions in there as well. I will be helping to moderate a Q&A session after about 45 to 55 minutes of discussion from our panelists. A brief reminder as well that closed captioning is available should you like to enact it. That again is accessible through that toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And you can see that it's a button called CC. You can go ahead and press that on and it'll provide live closed captioning throughout tonight's talk. We are also recording this presentation for archival usage, so just ask that you're aware of that as we move forward. Tonight's presentation, titled A Meditation on Grief and Healing, is part of Jaamil's large and ongoing American Chameleon project. I encourage you all to check out the many different aspects and growing arms of this project on our website, and Zach will put a link to that in the chat box as well for you all. American Chameleon, as it has so existed in the Fringe Festival and in the TBA Festival this year, has taken a number of forms. We've had a really incredible reading group that has taken place for the first 3 weeks of our festivals, allowing some opportunity for learning and intimate discussion. We had the living installments last Monday, which in some ways is the centerpiece of the presentation. And while most of that is no longer available, that was very much a live event. We do have some excerpts posted on our website, as well as some excerpts from the reading group. So if you're looking for additional material, I encourage you to check that out, in addition to Jaamil's Syllabus for Peace, which serves as a grounding collection of articles, videos, audio, and responsive prompts that have oriented this practice. Today, we are so happy that Jaamil will be in conversation with some ongoing collaborators, including both, of course, himself and Jennifer Kidwell and Dr. Brenda Dixon Gottschild. Together, they will talk about Jaamil's ongoing body of work, his generative practice, and the process of moving through grief and healing with a meditative and contemplative lens. I know for so many of us, this has been an ongoing period of grief, and I'm really looking forward to tonight's conversation. Before we begin, I'm going to do some brief introductions of our three esteemed panelists. So Jaamil Olawale Kosoko is a Nigerian-American performance artist, poet, and curator based in Philadelphia. His creative practice draws from Black study and queer theories of the body, weaving together visual performance, lecture, ritual, and spiritual practice. He has worked with FringeArts in the past on works including seancers and others, and we are really thrilled to have partnered with him on this piece as part of our 2020 Fringe Festival. Jennifer Kidwell is a celebrated performing artist with recent works including Underground Railroad Game, a winner of the Obie Award for Best New American Theater work, amidst many other honors. Home, which won the Bessie Award for Outstanding Production, and a number of other works with collaborative ensembles, including Pig Iron Theater Company, Lightning Rod Special, and the Wilma. A co-founder of Jack, based in Brooklyn, New York, Kidwell has also been recognized with prestigious fellowships from the Lewy Foundation, the Pew Center for Arts and Heritage, and the Independence Foundation. And Dr. Brenda Dixon Gottschild describes herself as an anti-racist cultural worker, utilizing dance as her medium, and she works as a freelance writer, consultant, performer, lecturer, and former consultant and writer for Dance Magazine, as well as, of course, Professor Emerita of Dance Studies at Temple University here in Philly. As an artist scholar, she coined the phrase choreography for the page to describe her embodied, subjunctive approach to research writing. We are so thrilled that the three of you are with us today, and we'll now move into discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katy and Zach, FringeArts and Pica, Dr. Brenda Dixon Gottschild, Jennifer Kidwell, and all of the collaborators. I feel incredibly grateful to be here to share space, time, thoughts, meditation, and spirit with you all. So ever so grateful. I want to start with a holding of space. And I want to invite you to, hold space with me. I'm going to light a candle. And with lighting this candle, I'm creating intention as we conclude this iteration of the American Chameleon project. I just want to honor that. So I'm gonna light a candle. I want this candle to hold space for peace, for care, for kindness, for serenity, for love, for remembrance. So you might see behind me, there's this light, And this light is very much a portrait. It's, it's a portrait of my brother, broken into fractals of light. And the original idea for this sort of effect was to sort of offer his light to the audience as they came into the installation component of the piece. But clearly that never happened due to the onset of the coronavirus, COVID-19, and and subsequent pandemics. What I love about this light is that it's in a state of constant becoming. And it's a way in which I'm able to be with him and for him to be with me. So inside of this kind of virtual space, this digital space, it becomes a space for connection, for transmission, for communication with life and the living, but with the non-living as well. And so I'm curious, as we think about this moment that brings us together, how we might think about not only the human, but that exists more than human, beyond the human, whether it be the earth, the sky, air, fresh air, whether it be water, spirits, animals, the more than human, beyond human. So this is a space that I'm attempting to hold for us this evening as we move through this moment of meditation, a meditation on grief, but on healing as well. And it feels important to hold both of these elements, both grief and healing, because the two are very much conversant for me, in constant conversation. And I want to think about grief along with my amazing collaborators this evening, but I want to think about grief as transformative, as a transformative agent for possibility, for hope, for love, intimacy, to propel us into a deeper love, a deeper care, a deeper understanding, not only for ourselves and each other, but again, for that exists beyond the human. If you can, I'd like to invite us all to take a breath together. Take a breath, just breathing in. And breathing out. 2 more, breathing in. And out. Last time, together, breathing in. and out. And with that, I'd love to invite my co-panelists this evening, to maybe, if we can, think about what are we holding space for right now? How is this project of grief and healing showing up for you in this moment?
May I jump in?
Yeah.
Just to say something about this incredible fractal background of your brother, that this is what I love about the way in which you conceive of your work, Jaamil. And every time I see anything that I've written about or anything that I've thought about, it's different than it was before. And I love, the whole interesting space that we are all in, where you can have this dialogue now with people who never all would have been able to get down to the fringe. And this, in a sense, is a static space, but in a sense, it's dead, but it is alive in a different kind of way than being alive in space together would be. And then those kind, and so the fractal of Jaamil back there, which is so incredible what you said, returning to the light, which is what we all are made of, is just, cloud dust and moonbeams. And that was just so right, that kind of fractures the incredible disruption of the way he died. And that brings it into another place. And certainly that's what you're doing in Chameleon, that you're bringing us through the grief, as you talk about it, into a place of, as you said in this essay, into a place of transformative energy. That, and I think we're all living that, of course, so vitally right now. Even before you, it was almost prescient that you should create Chameleon at this time, which you did before the virus, and before the whole racial outpouring of protest against that bigger virus, that there was something almost shamanistic in you about doing this. And I feel that with you quite a bit. But this sense of like you're leading and learning, and that cycle. And I feel very much you're channeling the ancestors. The one of the things I wrote about you was, well, this is a kind of Harriet Tubman example of channeling, and this conducting, that you're conducting in a certain kind of way. So all of that about the mixed up thing of grief and healing for all of us right now. And so I decided to wear my scrubs because it represents both the grief of this era. And when I went and got my flu shot the other day, it hadn't been out for so long, for 6 months. So in CVS, right next to the pharmacy where you get your flu shot, there were scrubs. And somehow I got Yemanya's color. So it's the ancestor, the deity, the Yoruba deity, and Jaamil is Nigerian-American. And I certainly have been in touch with the Yoruba practice in the Americas. The Yoruba deity of Yemanja, it was the deity of the ocean. And of course, the scrubs being both a refuge, a healing, and also, of course, representing the grief of where we are now. So just.
Thank you, Dr. B. You continue to be a light for me, and I feel ever so grateful for our connection and our friendship.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's gotten me, it continues to get me through, yeah, it's just some really perilling times. Um,
And
I
I'm so grateful to be connected to you. As
yeah,
you know, I feel you like the sun. I have a daughter, but
yes,
you are my son.
yes, yes, gratefully. I and in a role I am yeah, very honored to have.
Mm.
Um yeah. And I want to also just acknowledge my dear sister friend, if I can, Jennifer Kidwell, who's over there holding space as well. Jen, are there any words of that come to mind for you in this moment, or that you want to share?
Um, I was just thinking that the fractals to me look like the way that light bends in water.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, it's so interesting. This fractal looks like, I feel like we're underwater. And this is where my mind went. It was like one moment, the step and repeat. Remember, you taught me that phrase.
Yeah.
But just thinking about like, oh, like you could have a step and repeat, and if it was really glittery, you would feel like you were underwater, and there's something sort of surreal about that practice anyway. Like, what is that? Don't we always step and repeat the steps? That's called walking.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh wow, and the colors that are coming through this image of your brother, they're like a flame. They're the colors of a flame, like a kind of
Mhm.
muted flame. Um, and then when Dr. Brenda, when you were brought up Yemanja, so in Benin, Yemanja is called Mami Wata.
Ah, uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I've been thinking a lot about how like hurricanes start on that west coast of Africa and travel over the water to
Mm.
here. And if we're talking about grief and healing, uh, then there's also a friend of mine made this observation that the public isn't holding space for this grief. We're all invested in it and feeling it in different ways and perhaps moving through different stages at once. But we're all so mired in grief, but there's no public practice of that. Like there's no
Mm,
public holding through the grief. And when she said that, I was like, yeah, that's so deep. What would life be like if we could expect that kind of care? Especially as like, not only is there a pandemic, but we're being assaulted by this fire and this water.
mm,
Mhm.
That's what
Mhm.
I was thinking about.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an essay that I read uh, yeah, near the onset of Corona, and just want to share a bit of it. It's an interview with David Kessler, and David writes, or yeah, as a part of the interview, the interviewer asks, "You said you're feeling more than one kind of grief, question mark."
Mhm.
And he responds, "Yes, we're also feeling anticipatory grief."
Mm. Mhm.
Anticipatory grief is the feeling we get about the future
Mhm.
when we're uncertain. Usually it centers on death. We feel it when someone gets a dire diagnosis, or when we have the normal thought that we'll lose a parent someday. Anticipatory grief is also more broadly imagined futures. There is a storm coming. There's something bad out there. With a virus, this kind of grief is so confusing for people. Our primitive mind knows something bad is happening, but it can't see it. This breaks our sense of safety. We're feeling that loss of safety. I don't think we've collectively lost our sense of general safety like this.
Mm.
Individually or as smaller groups, people have felt this. But all together, this is new. We are grieving on a micro and a macro level. And this was something that my partner sent me actually in late March, early April, and it really just pulled into focus a lot of the intersectional grief that I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was it this pandemic, not only was it racialized, not only was it anticipatory, it was really a compounding grief. Um, you know, what I mentioned or talked about as the hydraulics of grief,
Mm.
where there's a kind of distribution that the body is having to choreograph, essentially. You know, what to do with this energy, where to put it, how do I hold it, how do I release it? What are those systems? And as you've mentioned, we have not perfected a system for grieving communally, socially, in a way that feels acceptable in the public space or in the public domain. And now with this virus, we're really being forced to deal with it. I heard a statistic today that uh, uh, suicide has risen quite dynamically and is the 10th most severe cause of death in the United States right now, in this moment. And so again, what do we do? How do we, what systems are there for us to think about releasing the grief and tuning to it, tending to it, you know, as in this project for healing.
You know, it's so interesting because thinking about anything that is in some way comparable, though of course this is much more global than 9/11 was. Though everybody got into 9/11, it was really incredible. Even in France, they said, "Nous sommes tous Américains." At that moment, we're all American when 9/11 first happened. And there seemed to be, and of course, Bush was not a perfect president or anything. And in some way, our leaders, as imperfect as they were, even if you'll remember, Giuliani was then the mayor of New York City. He was not the Giuliani he is now. Everybody kind of stepped up. There was this incredible, for once, global and national grieving that came to the moment, I would say, which is not happening now. And also, I must add that what has happened to the whole 9/11 thing is that it immediately turned into this nasty kind of chauvinistic patriotism. You know, we love our country, and closing out everybody else, so that now the memories of 9/11 are very hard. It's just the place where a whole anti-Islamic thing happened. So we didn't do well passing through that. I just want to mention this issue of Vanity Fair with this beautiful rendering by Amy Sherrill, who did Michelle Obama's, of now a mythical ancestor, Breonna Taylor. And one little thing, the whole issue was, of course, edited by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And there's one really wonderful line in which there's little stories about, as you were talking, Jennifer, about the fire. They're calling this True Stories of the Great Fire, okay? And one person echoes what you were saying. She says, what is there to say? There's just that inexplicable grief that you always have to put on hold because something has to be done. And so you don't really ever get to live in it it just lives in you. And what I feel Chameleon offers, what I do feel theater offers, why I've been dancing every day in my house, alone or whatever, in the kitchen, and reading poetry every day. You know, by the way, today is the birthday of Jamaluddin Rumi. I want everyone to know. But that's the one way that I can get beyond it or reach to others with it. And that's certainly what I feel is offered by your art, by yours, Jen, as well. The sense of a place, a haven, a comfort zone, a safe house. And that's what's so important about what you guys are doing.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about this idea of refuge, you know, and how the art space can serve as a kind of refuge, you know, a refuge for healing, a refuge for doing the work that one needs to do. That's that deep spirit work, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that, you know, it offers I'm sorry, Jen, it offers also, I love it. It's not like the answer. It's the questions posed in a way that embraces. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that it's interesting to me. I know this is true for me, and I think something that remarkable that's coming out of these ashes right now is the way people are turning to art. And I feel I've heard so many people speak about encountering poetry daily. I know I have been.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Jaamil, that podcast. But I think that's like a really beautiful thing, right? Like, what enters in when we're offered this time, or this time is foisted upon us.
Mm-hmm.
However it happens, however you happen to encounter it, what can enter in, and the thought that poetry is being embraced in the way it has is so remarkable. When you were speaking as well about 9/11 and the aftermath of that, all of the public grieving, which, well, yeah, it was complicated. It was such a complicated moment. But
remember all those the memorials all over the street in New York and Brooklyn, you know, and I'm thinking about all the, just in this country, the 200,000 that have lost their life with COVID, and we're not seeing memorials on the streets.
Yes. I mean, I guess I was like thinking to myself about how complex it was, because I remember watching the public displays of grief from the likes of Giuliani and Bush and feeling
disgusted.
Yeah, I did. And I know that, but I did. It was really complicated because I was like, you got us here, like you, and you know, I don't know what would I say about that now. I'd probably feel that way again. But as you were speaking, I was like, yeah, there's something. I'm like, well, what if in this time, because there's no outlet for all of that energy, right? Like we're just all just vibrating and vibrating with more and more frequency. I'm like, does it explode in a different way? So as opposed to a kind of soothing energy, like, is it a gush? Is it a geyser? Like, is this how we affect the change? Is this how change happens, right? You had said this thing about feeling, no, actually it was you, Jaamil. You were like, you were speaking about, and I think you were saying what Kessler said, this word, I think it was stability. And we're in such a moment of destabilization So there's this like really sad thing, this like melancholy. Actually, it's like we have grief and then we have melancholy about the grief because we can't even grieve, like we can't enact it. So we're doubling, it's a double effect. But in that lack of ability to attain that stabilization, I wonder like what happens in this destabilized state. What comes out of that? What does stabilization look like? Oh, and you were like, we've never reckoned with this lack of safety. And earlier on in the lockdown, I had conversations with friends whose parents weren't born here, or maybe coming out of places that don't exist, with a sense of that. And that's like so American, right? Like a table has 4 legs, right? But it doesn't always, but sometimes it does. Or like that's what they want you to believe, Then all of a sudden somebody comes off and they like cut, they either just take one off, they saw it down like 7 inches, and you're like, what happened? How do we eat here?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit. Sorry. But you're like, oh, I guess we could eat on the floor.
Or the place that it goes is what has happened with all of the protests.
Exactly.
That was, question being, if the fact that those 2 storms happened simultaneously, not that the killings haven't been happening always, really always, to tell the truth, since we've been here. But the fact that, so I'm seeing, Jen, that one way that this hydraulic pressure burst the pipe was in the protests.
Yes.
And how it grew,
Yes.
and again, globally, how it grew. I mean, when Amadou Diallo was, oh God, made into a puzzle pieces, there were some protests, but not like this. It's like every country all through the East, and not only Europe, but everywhere. So I think that had something to do with the hydraulics of COVID, if you will, that was pushing everything down. But again, what a different reaction. All of the anger, all of the rage, all of the outrage. I think that's why we're all going to poetry and art, because the one place where there is refuge is in those things, not and what we can find in the culture at large, And I just feel as bad as Bush and Giuliani were. Can you imagine that little Hitler in the White House even saying anything? And he doesn't know how to ever apologize.
Not a part of the lexicon.
No.
But it's so brittle and transparent.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It makes the others, it makes the Bush guy look complex in comparison.
That was such a weird moment the other month when all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute. Let's not, those 8 years happened. Like, was it? We were 8 years in mediocrity. Who was I was just talking to somebody about? Oh yes, just had a conversation about mediocrity. We were 8 years in mediocrity, sub-mediocrity. But it's crazy how context will change, and then you scramble and you're like, wait, how? How is this name no longer feeling like an immediate, like the immediate danger? Like it's been superseded by this other.
Yes. Yeah.
But not, we remember. We remember. They told us to after 9/11.
Yes. Yeah.
They'd never forget.
Yes.
I did want to. I wanted to go back just to this idea of the social uprisings as a kind of release valve, if you will, in regards to, these sort of this pressurized, system of grief, honestly. And I want to share I want to bring the work of theorist Sadia Hartman, who
Mm-hmm.
writes, waywardness is a practice of possibility at a time when all roads except the ones created by smashing out are foreclosed. It obeys no rules and abides no authorities. It is unrepentant. It traffics in occult visions of other worlds and dreams of a different kind of life. Waywardness is an ongoing exploration of what might be. It is an improvisation with the terms of social existence when the terms have already been dictated, when there is little room to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels really insightful for me, understanding and coming to terms, with my sort of relationship with the act of protest, and sort of the acting out, if you will, the smashing out,
Mm-hmm.
as a release when all other pressure valves have been closed, essentially. So that energy has to escape and
Somewhere. Right.
somewhere, and so, yeah, and thinking about that escape as a kind of possibility, an improvisational possibility for a social existence, uh, when there's no possibility, when all other possibilities are essentially foreclosed. And so now that we're in this moment of trying to really not even make sense, but just understand sort of what our relationship sort of is and means in relationship to this act of protest. I want to highlight how this how creating how this how creating work as an artist, as a kind of socially engaged movement practice, is innately a kind of protest. It is an attempt at releasing, for me, releasing certain energies, certain optics, certain ruminations and ideas, etc. Because really, it's the only place where I know how to allow all of these really otherwise confusing realities and escape. And I feel so grateful to have such a platform to do that, uh, as a space of release, to essentially maintain a sense of equilibrium. That's been super important for me, and yeah, just in figuring out like what practice means as a creative spirit in this moment.
And I think you've done it so beautifully on, multiple, what do you call it, platforms, portals, or whatever, and indeed, quote unquote, pivoting as needed. I love, I don't know if people have looked into any of these things, but I love the other portals that you offer on the Fringe site. I just this afternoon listened to lots of Audre Lorde incredible lectures, and to hear her read herself, to read the erotic as power was so incredible.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, uses of the
Uses of the
erotic,
erotic. Yeah.
erotic as
Uses of the
power, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And meanwhile, still the thing that makes it so important, I think about like the kinds of again, your I call it your geography piece, Jennifer. What is the name of it? What's the proper name of it?
Jen, yeah.
Yeah.
Railroad game.
The Underground Railroad game. I mean, that thing that, just threw you off the edge, you know, and you had to catch on the side of the cliff to drag yourself back up from the way in which you and your partner kind of laid that thing out, you know, that kind of force of art. And again, what you're doing in, and I see, of course, with you, Jaamil, a progression from, you know, endangered species through Negrophobia, through seancers, through Chameleon, the way in which you've built up a repertoire that allows us to, and it always feels very much to me about the ancestors also. Well, this whole time, I mean, I wear blue a lot. That doesn't mean I always think about Yemanja, but it's, you know, it's something about this time that, or going into a theater and seeing your pieces, seeing seancers, and there's the crossroads, which means gere, you know, on the ground, that you are pulling us back into ancestral realities, into ancestral truths, if you will, throughout what you do. And that seems particularly significant at this point because, you know, regardless of what the culture is not offering us now, I think what many of us are doing is, and I see that I had named my essay on you, The Chameleon Contingency: Reflections on Change, Culture, and Coping. And I think one of the ways that we're coping is, whether we know it or not, we're going back to our ancestors, you know. My friend Mera, who was on here, and Mera Goldberg is using your work in her course. And with things that happened in the elections, we were all, you know, and Mera said, well, I'm just thinking about my ancestors, you know, and the strength of my ancestors. And that's certainly what I've been doing, what we've been doing, you know. So what the culture doesn't offer, you go back to the cosmic sense of who you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just thinking about waywardness when you were saying that, and this, what you're bringing up now, Dr. Brenda, like what you were saying about waywardness, Jaamil, that quote. And I was like, right, well, we're like, what, 75% water, and water always finds a way. So like, that's just, that just makes sense. You know, like we start there, we start in the water, and then we carry it around. So,
Yes.
So right, it's like our birthright.
Yeah.
You to be wayward.
Yeah.
Systems.
A birthright of waywardness. You mentioned uses of the erotic, Dr. B, and I want to share just a little bit, not even a whole minute, but if we could, I'd love to just bring in, yes, Sister Outsider, Audre Lorde.
Now, it is never easy to demand the most from ourselves, from our lives, from our work. To go beyond the encouraged mediocrity of this society that we live in is always fraught with danger and with fear. And the function of the erotic is to encourage excellence. The function of the erotic is to encourage excellence and to give us the strength to pursue it. But giving in to the fear of feeling and working to capacity is a luxury that only the unintentional can afford. And by the unintentional, I mean those who do not wish to guide their own destinies. And I do not think I hope that does not speak to anyone here now.
I hope that does not speak to anyone here now. Unintentional. We are all here because we are intentional beings, and we want to hold space to invite that excellence, to consider and continue this lineage of excellence. With that, would you, how about we begin to, unless either of you have something else to offer, I'd love to begin to invite other folks to maybe share questions or comments, affirmations.
Can I do a really short, a short tribute to and through Rumi? It is very short. It's very short. But speaking of poems, speaking of ancestors, of deities, this is just 2 short pieces from Rumi. I have lived on the lip of insanity, wanting to know reasons, knocking on a door. It opens. I've been knocking from the inside. Take a breath. And last one for all of us, and we are all dancers. Dance when you're broken open. Dance if you've torn the bandage off. Dance in the middle of the fighting. Dance in your blood. Dance when you are perfectly free. Ashe.
Ashe, ashe. Yes. I danced today in my living room. I literally had a moment. Like, am I having a meltdown or am I dancing?
It's the same, baby.
Tell. Show. More show, let's tell.
Yes.
You're not gonna let me get you into that, huh?
Oh, you say don't show, tell. Oh, don't tell, show. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I said.
More show, she said.
More show, less tell.
Yeah.
Yes. I know that's what we all want, right? But yeah, that's all I got. All I got is the story. That's what I'm gonna give right now.
You should run for office.
All I got is the story. I see we have Amy here. We have Miera.
Oh well, yeah.
Of course, Katy and Mel Crodman. I'm just saying people's name. I hope that's okay, but you know, that's how we do on Instagram. We just sort of give shout outs to folks that we know are in the room. So, but are there any questions or comments that are coming up for people? I want to invite you to speak your truth if you like. Can turn off your mute, come into the room, if you like, or offer an affirmation.
Oh, I see Leela is here, and Linda Haviland, and I saw Marilyn Jackson was here. Bob Chapra, Bob and Mimi.
It's Leela. It's Leela. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Leela.
Hey, Leela.
I can't. I'm cooking, so I would love to be cooking for my family. So I would love to be visible, but I'm looking real like I'm in my house. No.
Okay, just as long as you dance in the kitchen.
But I just wanted to show my gratitude and for the conversation, which is just glorious in the moment. In the moments, the continual moments that we keep on going through.
Yes.
With every, post, every medium we engage with, there is no escaping the moment.
Yeah.
The moments. And I wanted to say, Jaamil, how just touched I am with the concept of the transforming of the imagery of your brother into light. And the way that I have a really kind of out of box connection. My students decided to name a star after me, and I was like, "That's so colonial." I was like, they sent me this. I guess you can name stars now. You can and I was like, wait, they didn't buy the star. They just put my name on the star. I was like, that's different. But it just took me through all those Stardust conversations, all the Octavia Butler, and I mean, I feel like it's sort of coming full circle with the light you have behind you. And I also just wanted to bring up and also acknowledge and affirm this notion of a good friend of mine, mentor, Dr. Nzinga Metzger, always says, you know, spirits ain't just people. She's like, when you be calling on spirits, they ain't just people. So y'all need to be careful up out here calling spirits. So your conversation about how you engage beyond the human sort of brought those two concepts up for me. And yeah, I just feel really grateful for the push right now. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Ashe, thank you so much for sharing that, Leela. I feel grateful, to hear your voice. So it's, I've not seen you in a while, but I feel you, and I'm just, it's really great to hear you. Anybody else out there wanting to share or, yeah?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Katy. I'm on Albert's Zoom right now.
Oh, Katy Vickers?
Yes. Hi, Dr.
Katy.
Brenda.
Hello. I worked with Katy Vickers and Albert Quesada in Tanzim August.
Yes.
How wonderful to see you both. Great.
Yeah, thank you so much for this talk. I mean, really just so affirmative of everything that's going on. And the anticipatory grief that you're talking about, I feel like that just made a full circle for me of this feeling, this anticipatory looming fear that I have and we've all been having. And I don't think I've recycled that word fear into grief, and then recycling that grief into healing. So thank you. I feel like after hearing that, it was like, oh, okay, like I can breathe a little bit lighter actually by like moving through the fear and thinking of it as grief and really like holding that.
Yes. Yes.
Like in a tangible, like in my body and with my people, and so that feels really like real and important. So thank you for that.
Yeah, just naming it and speaking to it directly, right? That already empowers us and begins that the acknowledgement is the first step of the healing process, right? So just knowing like, what am I feeling? Oh, this is what it is. Oh, this is where and how it is behaving.
My body, yes.
Yes, I can speak to this now, and I can ask for help or just communicate. Now I have language to actually communicate through it. So yeah, thank you so much for that, for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being here. Yes.
Thank you so much. Katy's been very present with the Chameleon project, so I'm grateful for that.
Okay.
Anyone else out there wanting to say words? Just holding space as we conclude.
If no one else is going to say anything, I have a very little short Lucille Clifton.
Oh, we always can bring Lucille in any room. She is ever welcome. Yeah.
And again, like just all of the poets. And by the way, for people who don't know, Jaamil is also a poet. That was like again, with Endangered Species, one of his earlier works. I used lines from his poetry to write the the essay in this incredible piece that he did. But I think Jaamil, maybe you're even the one who turned me on again to Lucille Clifton. I'm not sure.
Really? Okay,
I
yeah.
think, but this one, Blessing the Boats, because it seems like a blessing right now for everybody. So it's Lucille Clifton's Blessing the Boats at St. Mary's. May the tide that is entering even now the lip of our understanding carry you out beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever. And may you, in your innocence, sail through from this to that. May we all sail through.
I'll just pop in to say hi to everybody and tell you all how much I miss you.
Oh, Marilyn, yes. Marilyn Jackson. Mwah.
Marilyn, it's so good to have you join us here. I want to begin to usher us into a different space. Thank you all for joining us for the conversation. We would invite you now to please turn on your video if you would so like, and to move into what we're going to call a virtual lobby. So we encourage people to say hi to each other, to offer space for us to gather in a different way than we have previously. And thank you again for joining us. We'll turn on some brief music and look forward to saying hi to everyone. Thanks.
My video is stopped by the host.
I will get looking on that right now. Thank you.
Oh, here come the people. They can turn on their sound also. They can unmute, yes?
Yeah.
Feel free, folks.
Hello.
Even if it's a free-for-all, that's fine. This is our lobby talk.
A lobby talk. Oh my God, a lobby talk. What's that?
It's like when you run into the people that you wanted to see or you didn't want to see.
Oh, I'm familiar. I'm just like, I forgot. How did you do that? Oh my God.
Are you the host?
I am the host. If you can tell me the name that you are on Zoom with, I can help you with
Marilyn.
that. Marilyn. Okay, just a moment. Thanks.
Okay.
Meta.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm here. I'm not going to turn my camera off. I'm also in my pajamas.
Oh.
Marilyn, I just sent you a request to start your video. So if you just hit okay or yes.
There's
Marilyn.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, dear.
Hi.
Good to see you.
I did want to ask you how things went with the Berlin Festival.
Oh, yeah.
I think it went beautifully. You can go, there's a whole archive of it, and there is Jaamil's work there. So it's all on the Tanzim August, what do you call it, website. Yes, yeah.
I previewed it for Fjord Review, and I saw some of it, but I didn't know how it was received.
I mean, you know, it's hard to know how anything honestly is received inside of this virtual reality that we're in now. But I will say that from what I've heard from postmortems and you know, things on Instagram, you know, folks seem to really, you know, folks who were there and present were really appreciative of it, and so I feel ever grateful, you know, for that.
Were there actually many people on the ground there?
Well, how do you mean by on the ground?
I mean, were you
I don't think so.
Berlin?
Remember, she's the baker and she was at the party.
Who's talking about me as a baker?
The baker.
I didn't know it would be like this. Otherwise, maybe I would have combed my hair and put on makeup.
Who is that?
Okay. No, were you actually in Berlin, or was it all?
It was all virtual.
It was all
Yeah,
virtual.
it was all virtual. But they were very pleased with it. I know. You know, the people who ran it, and also pleased with having, as I think the Fringe is, people are now pleased with the fact that they are having these virtual realities.
Right.
And I guess that sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. It's virtual reality. So more people could come in than people who could be there in person. Yeah. Hi, Leah Stein, and hi, Martha. Hi, Mrs. Stein. Darian from Vermont. Nice to see you. Yes.
Thank you.
Reunion.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Such a beautiful conversation. Touched me so deeply.
Thank you. Thank you. And I had told them about the Doc Gibbs session that we had on Sunday. We had thought about doing a music meditation, but there wasn't enough time. So many faces I don't know. I mean, anyone who wants to say anything else while we have a few more minutes. I mean, I see Letty and Tiffany and Jocelyn. I don't know. And Marty Maynard. Anybody who wants to say even just hello.
Well, hello, Brenda. You know, I used to be your FedEx guy.
Who is this? Where is this?
Marty.
Oh, Marty! Oh my God, that is really incredible. Oh, your blonde mohawk, Marty.
Yeah.
He's got it. He's got it. Oh, that is amazing. That is just absolutely amazing. How wonderful. I didn't know you were a theater person, and I don't think you do FedEx anymore.
Oh, I don't do FedEx anymore, but yes, I am a theater person. You know
Fantastic.
that.
Marty is FringeArts' absolute most beloved volunteer and like superstar house manager.
Oh, stop it. Yes. Oh, dang.
It's an honor to have you here, Marty.
Oh, no,
to have you here.
See you and spend time with you, Jaamil.
Great. This is incredible.
Oh my goodness, heart so full. Thank you all so much.
Yes,
just so grateful. It's really been a lovely run. Yeah, it's been, I felt very cared for in this moment. Not only with this program, but all of the programs that we've done this month, a whole month of programming. So ever grateful to FringeArts, Pica, all of you for being here. Just thank you so much.
Yeah, and I just love seeing everybody. And this for the moment is everybody. And we hold all of you close, and we're all one. It's so incredible. We're so close, you know.
In my interview with Virva Sutinen in Finland prior to Tanzim Berlin, we were talking about how things are going here in the US and in the arts, and how everybody is pivoting and trying to survive. And she said she had a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. And so she said she wasn't really quite ready for having to go to plan C. But we just talked about how it was going to be without being able to see everybody. And I said, what we have is a duty to survive.
Right.
So that's my motto, a duty to survive, so we can come back together like this and make everything better than it was. I don't want to go back to normal.
Exactly. And my mantra, by the way, is simply John Lewis. Okay, just John Lewis. Yes, because he never stopped. You know.
Right.
Yeah. We can't stop.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just get out there and fucking vote. Sorry.
Yes, that's the protest, right? Like that's the protest now. Is really
Yeah.
yeah.
And I just got my ballot in the mail. And Meta and her husband, we all did a phone bank on Sunday. And the thing is, what you can do in Philly now. So I just got my ballot. I am going to fill it out tomorrow. But to personally deliver your ballot to one of those dropout places, if you can, rather than putting it in the mail at all.
And there are 7 advanced polling stations open right now where you can go and request your mail-in ballot, receive it in person right then, get instructions on how to make sure that it goes in its secrecy envelope and then in its real envelope. And you can do that at 7 locations. And the one that I can remember off the top of my head is City Hall.
Okay,
so
and then you could leave it right there, right then. Yeah.
Billy, if you go on to Billy Penn,
yes,
they have a list of all of the locations where you can drop it off.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the easiest places to go. WHYY, I think, has it too.
And I think the Leocora Center at Temple. So I thought I would do it at Temple.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean a list of locations near you.
Mm-hmm.
I just put the article in the chat. So the Billy Penn article that Marilyn mentioned has all of those voting locations, and they are spread across the community. So, you know, City Hall is maybe like the most technically central one, but there are plenty in North Philly, in West Philly, and South Philly. And a reminder.
And what you can all do as our kind of friends and community in this moment is share this with people you know, because I know that this is not information that everybody has.
Exactly. I did not know this was an option.
Yeah, it just came out a couple days ago and is in direct response to like an ongoing case in the state Supreme Court to ensure that like additional voter access is made possible in the wake of like defunding of the Postal Service. So grateful for advocacy in our state. And for those of us joining from not Philadelphia, as I know we have some people here from New York and from other cities and countries, know that the census is also due quite soon, and that can be filled out online. So that doesn't involve a rigmarole with other things. And yeah, let's encourage everybody to vote and participate.
Yes, 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 yes.
I think Philadelphia just got a $10 million grant to help facilitate voting, and that's why we now have these 17 places.
Wow.
Is that why Philadelphia is such a scary place?
It's if you go on my Facebook,
You know, bad things happen here.
Right.
That why it's so bad.
I just posted 10 pictures of all the bad things that are happening here.
Yeah.
And I think that that should be a meme. Take a picture of something wonderful in Philadelphia and
excellent, excellent. Yes.
Yes.
Most definitely.
I love it.
Okay, well, good night and lovely to see you all, Katy, Albert.
Yes.
Leah, hi. I don't have my glasses on.
Good to see you, Marilyn. Good
and
night.
of course, Brenda.
Love you all.
Good night, everyone.
And Jaamil,
Good night. Good night.
Virtual hug.
Hugs to you.
Virtual hugs.
We have to have you over, Jen, as we said, now that Arthur is back, okay?
All right. Good
See
night,
you.
you guys.
Good
Love
night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Ashe.
Ashe, 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 Ashe. Oh my goodness.
Jaamil, thank you so much. That was really wonderful.
Such a pleasure. Such a beautiful way to just, close our time together. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, very much so. It's been a real balm to work on this project throughout the duration of the festival and to look at it as a way to like articulate and muddle through together.
Leah, is this your mom?
Yeah, this is my mom, Martha. Martha, this
Hi,
is
Martha.
Jaamil. You've seen Jaamil perform. You've seen him perform.
I didn't realize
years
that.
ago.
Oh my God.
Nice to
Such
know
a
you
pleasure to
again.
meet you, Martha.
Well, I'd like to know you again now. That's great. I'm
Yeah.
glad to be here this time. I didn't know he was going to be here all these months.
It's wonderful. She's connecting me with all kinds of things. Philadelphia, and I'm helping her find things in Vermont. So we're having a great time.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Okay, I can't start crying. We're done with the conversation.
Yes.
I got through the whole conversation.
I wanted to say, Jen, I just appreciate so much getting to meet